Can I check that you can see my screen? No, I was gonna show one. Yeah, this one.
Not yet.
Can you still see it? No, no,
No,
no.
not yet.
No,
Okay, what's
not
happening?
showing.
I think I have too many windows open. Share.
Yeah, it's showing now.
Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah.
So I was gonna show you how to do a combination chart. And so I've added this new data. So if you were on the call last week, this bit of the data was not part of what I sent. So this is new. So if you save this data, and I'm going to use this bit to show you. And actually, this is actually real life of, well, the data is not actual data, but this is something like I would report on at work in my day-to-day job. And you want to put this on a report. So in my work, we sell homes. So we would have to like monitor our sales income, monitor it against the forecast and the number of homes we have sold. So this is a typical data that we would have. We would have a forecast. We'll have our income received, and we'll have like the number of homes sold. So if you want to put this on a chart, you will select the data. You would go to insert, recommended charts. I mean, this might look different depending on the version of Excel you have, but you would always find charts there. If I go to all charts, I want to do a combination chart, which is the one down here. So I have different options. I have the clustered column. I have the cluster line as a secondary axis. I have another stacked area. I have custom combination. So I'm going to go with this one because I want the number of homes I've sold on a secondary axis, and I want my sales income and forecast on the main axis. So if I click on the second one and click OK, please kindly mute yourself if you're not asking a question. Thank you. And then we have the chart here. So if you click on this is the number of homes sold. And you can see that you have your secondary axis here on the side. So this shows the number of homes sold. And then on your main axis, you have your sales income and your sales forecast. And of course, you can play around with this. You can, let's try the other charts. Let's change chart design. Change chart type. Let's see this, what this looks like. And just make this here. So that's okay. And this looks like this. So depending on how you want your chart to look, please play around with it and see what you come up with. And of course, last week we did the different aspects, how to change the chart title and all that. So that's just an addition to the charts we did last week. So if anyone has a question regarding the pivots that we did last week, please let me know.
Hi, sorry, I'm Ken. I was just gonna ask you to just go through the pivot table again. But I think you guys did it last week, so that's fine.
Yes, we did it last week. I would encourage you to get the recording and
No,
go through it.
Yeah, I do know how to use it. I was just saying for maybe the benefit of those who might not have been in last week.
Because we're gonna like hold other people back if we start going over the whole thing again. If you've like tried it and there's a particular question you have, then we can touch on that. But going over it again is just going to take away from what we're here to do today. So I encourage you to go through it, and if you have any specific question, you can always come back and then show you. But for the sake of every other person, we can't go over it all over again. I hope that's
Yeah,
okay.
oh no, definitely, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to put another data. And today we're going to be looking at our Vlookup. So we're going to start with Vlookup. So we're going to be looking at lookup functions. Lookup is something that you cannot get away from lookup. If you work with data, you can't get away from lookup. I would put another file here before we start. Let me know if you've received the data, if you can see the data.
It's received.
Yes, received.
Great.
Okay.
I would share my screen now. So this is the data I just shared with you, and we're going to be using this for our lookup. Basically, what lookup does is you are looking up information from like different data sets. So you have information, maybe, okay, there's a change of system, they're changing system. And with every change in system, you have information from one system that will be going to another system. And you might want to like clean up the information before you transfer it to the other system. And even after transferring to the system, you want to make sure that what you have transferred from one system is what appears in the other system. So there are so many uses of VLOOKUP. You might need lookup to look up different information from different systems, different data sets, and combine them together. So in this case, this is like an HR report. This is, well, a simple version of an HR report. And I've got my employee ID, we have the last name, and we have the first name. So let's assume that, okay, we have a system, we have employee ID on this system, we have a last name, and we have a first name. And then on another system, maybe this is now our payroll system, we have the employee ID. For some reason, we don't have the first name or the last name, but we have their pay for the year, for the annual pay for the year. And then on another system down here, probably another health and safety system or something like that, you have where your employee, where they live. So you have all these three systems, and you've just commissioned this all singing, all dancing new system, and you want to combine this information into one and put it in your new system. These are things that happen in the workplace. We have information from the HR system, we have information from the payroll system, and we want to combine this. As long as we have something that is unique to this information, we can actually do a lookup to pick information from one bit to the other. In this case, if you look at this side, this table here, I've got my employee ID. On this table here, I've got my employee ID. So I have something unique to both systems that I can use to look up. And that's what I'm going to use. And employee IDs, they are usually unique to to every staff. If they are not unique, probably there's a problem and there's an error in the data. So you know that when you have an employee, an ID would usually be unique to whatever you're doing. Otherwise, it is not a proper ID. I want to populate this table on the right, and I want to bring in the first name from this table. Forget that, this table is quite small, and you can literally just look through and pick the name. But when you're dealing with data, you know that they always run to like thousands of lines, thousands of rows, and you cannot be going one by one. So even if it's something that you can look up, that would mean that you have to copy and paste from one place to the other, which is, one, it's prone to errors and is not an efficient use of time. So I'm going to use a VLOOKUP to look up this employee ID, the first one. I will look it up in this table, and I will bring in the first name here. and I'm going to use a VLOOKUP. So the first thing you do when you want to type any formula in Excel is you start with an equal to. And when you put an equal to, Excel knows that you want to put in a formula, you want to reference something. So I'll do equal to. I'm going to show you different methods. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to use the function box. So you can go to formula, you can go to lookup, and you can pick your VLOOKUP. And of course, you need to know where to look up all this, but with time, once you get used to it, you know where the different functions are. So I've gone to formulas, I'm going to do that again. Formulas, lookup and reference. There are different formulas here. So there are different functions under different ones. So you just need to know where your function is, the function you need. If you don't know where it is, there are other ways of looking for it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll go to lookup and reference, because lookup. I'll pick my VLOOKUP, and it comes up with a box, this function argument box. And the Fox box says lookup value. What is my lookup value? Your lookup value is what is unique to both data sets. Whatever is unique, that is what you want to look, that is what you want to use to match the data. In this case, I'm using employee ID, and our employee ID is in cell J4. So I'll click on J4. That's my employee ID. And the next box says table array. It wants you to indicate the table you want to look up the data. And our table is on this side here. So I will select the whole table. I'll select the table. And then the third box says column index number. And what this means is you've selected the table, you've selected a lookup value. What column do you want me to bring the information from? In this case, we're looking for first name. What column is first name here on this table?
Is in
Can
column
anyone-
C.
C3.
Column C. And D.
Well, we're looking for first name.
Okay, D.
D. Oh, D.
Yeah, it's in column D. But in this box here, we have to use a number. So it's either column 1,
D4.
column 2, column 3.
Column 3.
Column 3, because our table has 3 columns, and we are looking up the reference from the first column. So it's column 3. So our column index number will be 3. So we'll put 3 there. And then it goes to the next box, range lookup. This is asking you that, if I can't find this data for any reason, if this data is not there, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to, if I can't find this data, do you want me to just, say I can't find it? Or do you want me to bring in the closest data to what you're looking for? In this case, our employee ID, it has to be one person. So we don't want the closest data. We want you to bring in this data. And when you want it to bring in this data, you put a false. That means don't look any other, don't if you can't find it, don't look further. Don't give me any other thing apart from what I'm asking. So I will type in false. If you put true here, you're saying, oh, if you can't find this, just look for something close to it, the closest thing to it. But we don't want that. We want, most of the time, it's going to be false. So we'll have false, and it's and then we click OK. And the first name, what it has brought in is Brad. Let's look on this table for Brad. Where is Brad? This is Brad, and that's the employee ID. Can we see? I'm just going to color that. That is brought in the right data. So it has brought in Brad. Okay, let's do last name. Let's try that again and do last name. Can someone help us? What do we do?
Equals.
Equals.
And then function.
Function, no, formulas, yeah. And then we look for the function, right?
Lookup. Yeah, and then VLOOKUP.
VLOOKUP, okay. So what are we looking up?
Last name.
No, ID.
Okay.
ID.
Yes, ID.
Yeah, we are looking for last name,
Last
but
name,
we
okay.
need to find something that we will match on the other table to bring in the last name. So it would be the employee ID. Okay, so I'll click on employee ID. What do we put on the table array?
Highlight the whole table.
Yeah, we'll select the
B3
whole
to
table.
B10,
So
D10.
B3 to B to D20. And then the column index,
The
2.
2. That's because we're looking where the last name is on column 2. So that's
Good.
2. And then arrange lookup. What do we put
False.
here? False. So false. No, false. Okay. And we brought in Pete. We're going to try another method. And we're just going to type it in without going through the table, through the function box, rather. So if I want to do the next one, you're now doing your Vlookup, and when you type in the Vlookup formula, it would prompt you on what to do next. So if we do this one, it's equal to, let's type in Vlookup. Once you type in your Vlookup, it would give you can see that it's already, there's a pop-up that says look for the value in the leftmost column of a table. So it kind of like prompts you on what you need to do. So we have Vlookup. When we open a bracket, and then you can see that the lookup value. So this is basically what we had on the table that we just used. The first box, if you remember, was the lookup value. And then we have the table array, and then we have the column index, and then we have the range lookup. If you remember when we had that table open.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, you don't need your table. You can just type in your formula, and then it will prompt you. But of course, you need to be used to it for you to be able to use this method. So our lookup value is already, what he wants you to put next will be highlighted. So it is in bold. That's the next thing you need to put. So what's our lookup value here?
Employee ID.
Employee ID, which is this J5.
J5.
Okay, so I'll just click on J5. And once you are done with that, if you put a comma, can you see that the table array is now highlighted? Because it's telling you that that's the next thing you need to put.
Okay.
So let's select our table. We'll select our table.
B3.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what do we do after that? We'll put a comma. And then it highlights the next thing you need to do. Column index number.
3.
3. Okay. So we'll put a 3 and comma. And then the last one is range lookup. It's even brought in the true or false. What do you want? Is it an approximate match or an exact match?
False.
We want false. So I can do false, or I can type in false. And then close the bracket and enter. And then we have it.
One Malu. We seem to have.
Sorry? So on the last name, can we do the last name together, please?
Yes.
Equal to V.
Vlookup.
Equal to Vlookup.
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 Bracket.
Bracket.
Open a bracket.
Start with lookup value.
J5,
J5.
Employee ID. J5.
comma,
Comma.
Select
select
table.
table,
Select the table. And
comma,
comma.
Select
two,
2.
column.
Thank you. Comma.
Comma, and false.
And false. And close the brackets and enter.
enter.
And our employee A30385 is Prince Williams. That's Prince Williams. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, we've typed this formula like 4 times now. But the good thing with Excel is you don't have to type. Once you type your formula in once, you can just like copy and paste and, So once you type your formula in once, you don't need to redo it. Like when we did the first thing, we didn't need to like type it in here again for last name. We don't need to type this in. We don't need to type this in. So you can't keep like going down and typing your formula in. Otherwise, there's really no point of using the formula if that is what you have to do. I'm going to delete all this and go back to the first one we did. So I've typed my formula in, and all I need to do is copy or drag this formula wherever I want a lookup. So I just need to, copy this formula or drag it down. If I drag this formula down, let's try and drag, let's drag it down first. If I drag it down, can you see what has happened?
Yeah.
Why do we have NAs here? And NAs, when you have NAs in VLOOKUP, it's telling you it can't find the data.
Okay.
So it can't find the data. But if we look at 392.128, 392.128, the data is there.
Yeah.
Why did it not work? I'm going to tell you why. When we did this
Is it
formula,
because it's double digits now, so the formula needs to change or something?
no.
Yeah.
When you reference a cell in Excel, is a relative reference. So if I reference, so if this is 20, this is 5, this is 8, this is 12. If I say equal to this cell here and enter, what I've done with this reference is I'm saying, look to your left, count 1, 2, 3, 4. So look 4 cells to your left and bring me whatever is in that cell. So this is a relative reference. It's just like, just anywhere you are, just look 4 cells to your left and bring me whatever is there. So if I drag this formula down, it will be 0. And that's because it's just looking 4 cells to the left and bringing anything there out. But if I want this formula to only reference this cell, no matter where I put that formula, I want it to be looking at this cell, I-24. What I would do is I would change that reference to an absolute reference. So I would have to freeze the cells. And the way you freeze the cell is you freeze the column and you freeze the row. Sometimes you might need the row to be flexible, then you fix only the column. Sometimes you might need the column to be flexible, then you fix only the row. So this is equal to I-24. If I want to fix the cell, I put a $sign in front of the I, and I put a $sign in front of the row, which is 24, and enter. This has not changed. It's still going to reference this cell. However, if I now drag this down, if you look at this cell, anywhere I put this formula, it's going to be referencing this cell because I've frozen it. What I've done with the dollar is I'm saying anywhere I put this formula, I want you to return I-24. So depending on what you're doing, you might need to fix your column or freeze your row. And I'm going to show you now why this does not work in some of the cells. If you look at Brad, we're referencing J4. And we are picking this table. So our table is from B3 to D20. And that table is not moving. So you can see the first one that we type, B3 to D20, is picking the table correctly. So what it's doing is looking back to, is looking to the left and picking, just these bits. And it is relative. If I go to, I'm going to go to Tony, for instance. Can you see that the selection of the table has moved? So it's looking at the employee ID, but the selection for the table has moved. I want my table to still be from B3 to D20. So we need to freeze the table. I'm now going to show you why this does not work, because it's not referencing the part of the table that this number is. Can you see my selection of the table? So as you drag it down, it would, it's a relative reference. So it would continue to shift your selection. But in this case, we don't want the selection to shift. So what do? We go to Brad. We have to go and freeze our table. There are you can freeze this table by pressing F4 on your keyboard. Some keyboards, you have to press function F4. So by pressing F4, it's added $1 to my column and $1 to my row. Can you see what it has done? So I have $1 in front of B, I have $1 in front of 3, I have $1 in front of D, and $1 in front of 20. So what I've done with that cell is that I have frozen that table. So anywhere I put this formula, it's only going to reference this table. It's not going to move. So we're gonna drag it down again, and then we'll see the difference. So can you see what has happened? Now, anywhere you click on, you can see that it would reference your old table. It is not going to move. So we've done that. If we want to do last name, what do?
We drag to the side.
You drag it to the side.
So we'll drag it to the side. Why is it not working?
Because the table is not
Because
frozen.
the selection of the table, it would be 3 instead of 2.
Which selection? Which one?
So the column number.
The column number.
Yes.
Should be.
It should be
this
2
column number.
name.
It should be 2, right?
Instead of 3,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, you're correct. Let's put 2 and see if it works. So we change that to 2. Why has it not worked?
Available.
It
We're having K4. Oh.
It should be J4.
It should be J4.
J4, yeah.
So before dragging it, what did I need to do to the column?
Fix J4.
I have to fix J4. But if I fix J4, let me fix J4.
No,
So are you saying I should fix the whole of J4?
No, it won't work that way.
No.
It won't work. So because I'm going to drag this down. So I need all my rows. I need row 5, row 6, row 7. So I need that to be flexible. But I know that my employee ID is on column J. I need that to be fixed. So what I would do is I will only fix J, column J. And then I'll leave row 4 flexible. So I'll fix column J with $1 in front of J, and my 4 will be flexible, and enter. And if I drag it to the side, and then I would now change this because I'm looking for the last name, which is on column 2. I will change that to 2 and enter. And after doing that, I can now drag it down. And then I'll have the right figures. If, for instance, if I've frozen my row as well as a column and drag it to the last name here and change this to 2. While it will work for this one, if we drag it down, what do we think it would do? Because we have frozen the row as well as a column, anywhere you look, it's going to be referencing this cell. It's just going to be looking at this cell. And we don't want it to do that. We want it to, be looking at the cells going down, which is why you have to think about what you want to achieve and freeze either your row or freeze either your column or freeze both of them, depending on what you want to do. So for this one, we have frozen column J, and we have frozen the whole table, both columns and rows. So I would take that out, drag it to the side, change this to 2, and drag it down. And then we have our figures. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've been able to merge these two together. And what we want to do is, I'm just going to delete this bit here. So you've done this and it's all fantastic work. And suddenly someone has come up with another data down here that, you know what, on our new HR system, we need to actually put the city and the state the employees, live. So they've given you another set of data, and luckily it has employee IDs as well. So you need to combine this data. So we want city and state. So you've been asked to add city and state to this. What do we do? And I want us to do this without typing the form, because we already have the formula on our sheets, on our worksheets. We don't need to type Vlookup anymore. We already have the formula. What can we do? How do we move this formula to cover the next table? Can someone help us? Hello? Okay, let's try it. I already have this formula. I'm not typing this formula again. Okay, so if I drag it here, of course, it will still be referencing what we have here. We already know that our employee ID is still a unique reference that we're going to use to look up on the other table. The only thing we need to do is we're looking for city. Can you see my table selection here? I'm just going to move my table selection. Sorry?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, I'm going to move this table selection. I'm going to move it to the next table because that's what I need now for that cell. And I've moved it to the next table. And I want city. That means my city is on, my city is right, it's on column 2, and enter. And Brad lives in Austin. So if you click on your formula, you will see that you're referencing this table here. And because you've already frozen the table in the first instance, you've done it here. So you don't need to do all that work anymore. All you need to do is just be dragging your formula, copying and pasting anywhere you want it. And because you know what makes up this data, you just need to drag that selection to where you want it to be. So this one, if I drag it to state, the only thing we have to do here for state is to pick column 3 on our column index. If you change that to column 3, enter. And we have Austin and Texas. We have these two. We can just drag it down. And that is it. And this makes your work so easy because a lot of the time, you have employee data, you have thousands and thousands of lines. And you can just, use a formula, use one formula, to combine your spreadsheets. Before we go on, there are some shortcomings to Vlookup that you need to know. So you can't use Vlookup for every data. You can see that we have an employee ID on all these tables that we're looking at. If we don't have unique reference, something unique to all the tables, we won't be able to look it up because there will be nothing to look up. So if you don't have anything unique to all these tables, it might be number, it might be maybe last name, or maybe the name. It has to be something unique that you would use to look up this data. Otherwise, your VLOOKUP will not work. And when we say unique, it has to be like nobody else has that employee number. If it's not unique, so for instance, let's have an example. So this is Brad Pitt's number, 990-678. I'm going to copy that number and I'm going to put it in. Let me change Smith John number to that. So I will do Control V. So Smith, John Smith and Brad Pitt, they both have the same employee ID. Can you see what has happened here? This has changed to John Smith. Do you know why it has changed to John Smith as against Brad Pitt? Because we had Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt also has the same number. Why is it picking John Smith as against Brad Pitt? The main reason is it starts from, you're saying look for this number. It will start from the top of the table. Once it finds that number, its work is done. It's not going to go down and say, oh, is there someone else with that number? No. So it will just find the first reference that matches what you're asking for. That is what it will bring. So if this data is not unique, so if you've been asked to do this work, for instance, and you just put your VLOOKUP and you say, this is John Smith, do you know that that would not be correct? Because you have two people with this employee ID. So that would not be correct. So the first thing you need to check for when you want to do your VLOOKUP, you have to check your unique reference and make sure it is actually unique. And the way you check your unique reference is I'm going to highlight this bit here. You have to use conditional formatting to see if you have duplicates in your data. If there are duplicates, then you know that you cannot use a VLOOKUP for that. You have to have unique values. And to check for duplicates, so we have this, I'm going to remove the highlights. No fill. So I'll select this. I'll go to conditional formatting. It's under Home. Conditional formatting. I can use highlight cell rules, and I want duplicate values. So duplicate values. So I'm going to say anything, if it's a duplicate, just highlight it, fill it with red. You can choose to do anything. You can fill it with green or whatever you want to do, just to show that there is a duplicate. So what I've done is conditional formatting. If there's a duplicate in this data, just fill it up, highlight it in green. And you can see that it has highlighted this in green. So once I see this, I know that if you do a VLOOKUP, your data will not be correct. So you probably have to use something else to combine your data. So that's one shortcoming. You have to check and make sure there are no duplicates. And also, one other thing is VLOOKUPs is sensitive to like formatting, especially when you're working with numbers. So you know sometimes there are numbers and they are typed, they are typed as text, and then Excel is not seeing that as a number. So when you do a lookup, when you do a VLOOKUP, it would not find it. So let me see. If we look at CocoGov, for instance, if I put like an apostrophe in front of the number, it shows as a text. Can you see that CocoGov has disappeared here because it can't find it? That's this number here, and that is this one here. And that's because this looks like a text. And to Excel, this is not a number, and this is not the same as this one. So when you're looking up this number, it's looking for a number. It's not looking for a text. So sometimes, your formatting, you have to make sure your formatting is right. And if you're looking up a number, make sure you're looking it up on the table that has the number format, not a text format. So you might need to like convert one of them to either text or number, depending on what you're doing. As long as they're both the same, then you'll be able to find it. I mean, sometimes you even find that, you have different data, one has text, one has number, and you have to first convert different ones. And you might have to have your employee ID on 2 rows with one as a text and one as a number, and you are looking it up. But it is not difficult as long as you know that when you type your VLOOKUP, you type it once and that is it. So I would change this back to number. let's see. Smith John. What was Smith John's number? Let's John Smith was I'm just putting this data back to what it was. And I said that as soon as I remove that duplicate, there's no highlight. So always check for duplicates and just filter your data and make sure you don't have duplicates in your unique ID. Just in the unique ID. And okay, so we want to bring in on this pay report, we want to bring in the pay band.
I'm so sorry. I would just wanted to ask if I can, if you can please click on the city, the row under city. I want to see your template.
What do you mean? This one?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So you want to see, okay. Do you want me to highlight it so you see the cells?
Yes, okay.
So those are that's the cell it's picking from. That's the table.
Okay.
And it's looking up this cell.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. We want to, well, someone has given us another table. We want to bring in the pay band to this table. So pay band, Control C. We want to see what pay band are these members of staff so that we can have the data all in one place to load to our new system. For pay band, so pay band is, a band. And what we're going to use here, we're going to use the true function. So the true function, the true function is it's something close to it. It's not an exact match. So we're going to practice the true function using the pay band. And what we're going to look up is the pay. So we want to look up the pay in this table here, the pay band table. So what I would do, so that we can see what we're doing, I'm going to move the pay band to the side. I'm going to move the pay band to the side here so that we can see everything. I don't need to keep scrolling. So what do? Let's type the formula and revise it. Although we don't have to, but let's type the formula. Equal to Vlookup.
So,
Please go ahead.
no, brackets.
Open bracket.
Open a bracket, yes.
Brackets, yeah. Pay band.
Pay band, where? Don't
Okay,
forget.
no. Yeah, the employee ID.
Employee ID. Okay, that's the employee ID.
Is it pay?
Or is it P3?
P3.
Yeah.
P3. What are we looking up? What are we doing? Let's start again. What are we doing?
We are trying to get the band.
We want to get the band from this table on the right side, right?
Yeah.
I remember what did I say? That we have to look for unique, something that we can match up.
Yeah, which is the employee
On this
ID.
pay band, we only have the pay and the pay band.
Okay.
So what are we going to use to look it up?
We'll use the pay.
We use the pay. We have to use the pay because we want to see what pay band that pay falls into. So we're going to use the pay. So let's start again. Equal to Vlookup.
Open bracket.
Open bracket.
Pay.
K4.
K4.
K4. Thank you.
Yeah. Comma. This
Select the
pay table.
Highlights.
pay band table.
So we select the table. Okay.
Comma.
Column
V
1.
Is it
V5. This
1.
No,
oh,
why
sorry.
is it one?
Sorry.
We're bringing in the pay band. Remember, look
2.
at what we
2.
have here. Column 2. It's
okay?
just a
Column
two-column
two.
table.
Yeah.
We're
Mhm.
bringing in the pay band. Column 2,
Two.
Column 2, yeah.
comma.
Comma and
False.
false.
No, we're
False.
not using false.
True.
If we use false, we
True.
won't find it.
True.
Okay,
In this
true.
case, we want because it's a band, we want an approximate match, which is why we're going to pick true.
Okay.
And then we close the bracket and enter. Can you see that it's brought in level C for 84,289? And that's level C. So it looks for what it is nearest to. So it looks up, and then so this pay minimum will be the minimum, and then it will look for where it's going to be. You can see that it won't be level D because 100K is the minimum for level D. So this will be in level C. So we need to do it for all the employees, all the rows. What do?
We need to fix the
We drag it.
Freeze.
Yeah, we need to fix. What do we need to fix?
$K.
The pay
Okay.
column.
So $K column, okay.
Or we do F4.
And then
Yeah, you can do F4.
Yeah, do V5 to W10.
What do we do
Fix
to that?
F4.
Yeah, I'll do F4. So we fixed both columns and rows, okay? And enter. And when we drag this down, what do we then? When we drag this down, then we know that our table will not move. Why do we have an NA? Michael Jordan as an NA. Why do we have an NA?
Because the pay is not up to the
Any of the bands.
Yeah, because the pay is not up to 25,000, which is why, this is coming as NA. And NAs are very good because, it might indicate so many things. Maybe in this organization, probably there shouldn't be anybody below 25,000. And when you have this on your data, it means that maybe something is wrong somewhere. It might be that, okay, maybe you need to question the origin of that data. Or maybe for some reason, Michael Jordan is the part-time staff, which is why the pay is lower than 25K. So it would throw out some questions. So that's how you use true. If you want like an approximate match, then you use true. A lot of the times you find out that you use false a lot. So that is simply Vlookup. So the main thing with Vlookup is just practice and practice and practice. Sometimes you might have, so this is just simple sample data, as you know. And when you are doing lookup, sometimes you might have so many columns that need to change. And you can actually put your column numbers. Maybe, instead of selecting all the way, if you have like this Excel, when you select it, so when you're selecting your table and once it's VLOOKUP and you're selecting your table, can you see that I have the number of columns just by the side, just by the P. I don't know if you can see it. So it will show me the number of columns I've selected, which is very good for VLOOKUPs. The older versions of Excel don't have that function. So you might, depending on the Excel version you have, you might not have that function. So if you do a VLOOKUP and you select, you already see what column you're going to put. And it's very useful because, your column might stretch as far back as ZA or ZB or something like that. So you know how many columns that is, hopefully not. So you'll be able to see the number of columns that you have. Once you are selecting up to 20, you lose count. So that also helps to know what column index to put in. So answer the question. So if we have 0 in front of the numbers, will it have the same value? Let's try it. That's from IJ. Will it have the same value? The fact is, if you put 0 in front of a number, if it's a number in Excel, once it's set up as a number, once you press enter, the 0 in front will disappear. The only way you can retain the 0 in front of a number is if you put your apostrophe in front of it. Otherwise, it won't work. So let's look at this 110608. If I put 0 in front of this number and do enter, that 0 will disappear. The only way I can retain the 0 if I turn it to a text. And once you put it in a text and you're looking it up, then you won't find it because you've changed the format. Can you see that this has disappeared? So if it's formatted as a number, then you won't be able to retain the 0 in front. Is that clear? If the number, if it has to have 0, then it would be a text. And what it means is that whatever you're looking up would have to be a text for you to find it. Otherwise, you won't find it. It won't find it. So that is VLOOKUP. Do we have any questions? Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna put another data.
So I want to ask a question regarding using this formula on a Power BI environment. Is it applicable, please?
I can't answer that question because I don't use Power BI.
Power BI. Okay.
Okay, I can answer that for you. Yeah, so with Power BI, you can kind of get your input on any data source, and Excel is one of them actually. But of course, you have to specify where you're getting the data from anyway. And yeah, so this is not in the remit of this particular class. We have another Power BI class if you are interested. Anyway, but that's only for the data analyst guys anyway. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have a question before you proceed to the next one, please.
Okay.
So, when we were trying to freeze up the table, all you did was just to move, the table was highlighted in red. It has this red border.
Yeah.
That you just move to the next table, which is the state.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, if we have more than the number of rows in the previous table and then the next one, how do we do that? Should we then
I'm going to shorten this.
Okay, thank you.
So moving this to the next table, if I move this to this table here, so you can see that it has not covered the whole table. All you need to do is just drag your selection down. Or drag it to wherever you want it to be.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on to another type of lookup, which is the Hlookup. I'm going to put another data in the chart. Okay, what has happened? Chart, okay. I'm going to share what I sent just now. Did you receive the data?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm just gonna. Okay. So Hlookup works the same way like Vlookup. So while Vlookup, did someone say something? So while Vlookup is a vertical lookup, so you're looking up columns. For Hlookup, you're looking up rows. I hope I'm still sharing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So Hlookup will look at rows instead of column. For Vlookup, we're looking at columns. And one other thing I did not mention when we're doing Vlookup is for Vlookup to work, you're looking at the columns to you're always looking to your right. So to the right of, you're always looking, so you match the unique ID and you're always looking to your right. So if the information you are looking for is at the other side, then you have to use another, it's either you move it or you have to use another function. In that case, you can use index and match. We'll get to index and match subsequently in this lesson. So Hlookup, this data, we have this this setup, which is, is set up in rows for some reason. This is the way our data came out. And what we're trying to look for is we're looking for the department of employee with ID 502. And because we have the different functions on the rows as against column, we are looking up the first row and we're looking it up down. We are going down. Employee 502. We're looking for the department. See, department is customer service. We can see it because the data is there. But we need the Hlookup formula to look this up. Sorry, 1 minute. Oh, it's my controls. Okay, that's fine. We'll start with Hlookup. We can start with a formula. Let's start with this. So we need to look for the Hlookup function, and that should be on the lookup and reference. So Hlookup, and it's like very similar to the last one we did. It would just be you look for your lookup value, which has to be unique, and then you input your table and your row reference. In the last one, it was column index. In this one is row index. And our logic, is it true or false? So the first thing, our lookup function, lookup value here is we are looking up 502. So I'll click on 502. And on our table, what are we looking up on our table? What table are we looking up from? It would be this
The one
table.
above, yeah.
Yeah, so we select the old table. Okay. And then what row are we looking for?
Yeah, the department.
So the department, which is row what on this table?
5. 1, 2, 3, 3.
Yeah, is row 3 on our table. Why is row 5 on this worksheet, but it's row 3 on our table? So that will be 3. And the range lookup, do we want a true or false?
It would be false.
It will be false because we want an exact match. So false. And okay. And that's employee with ID 502 works in customer service. So it's just looking at the rows as against the column. And with this as well, okay, let's do this bit and type it in. So what's the salary of employee with ID 505? Let's type it in this time around instead of using the box.
Okay.
Equals
To
Hlookup,
Hlookup,
bracket
versus
open.
column.
open a bracket.
That we're looking for salary, so that would be 505 is click on G6.
G6.
Is it G
G16.
salary G no B6? No, that's the row.
B16.
B16. B16. Comma. That's our lookup value.
Yeah, we select
the old table.
Select the table.
Select the old table. And then
Is it the row number?
comma, don't forget.
Comma 5.
Once your table array, once it's still highlighted, then it's waiting for you to put a comma.
Okay.
So comma. And then
4.
we have.
What is it?
G.
The row.
4.
What are we looking for? We're looking for the salary, right?
Yeah.
Which is 4.
It's 4.
No, oh, sorry, 4.
Up to 4.
Yeah.
So 4.
5.
Then
Close the bracket. Comma. Sorry.
And then it's asking us true or false.
We want to, false. We want the exact match.
We want the exact match. False. And then we close the brackets and enter.
Okay.
So can we see that is basically the same as VLOOKUP. It's just the way that it's looking it up is different. Let's do employee ID 507. What's the total pay for employee with ID 507? Can we copy and paste instead of typing it again?
And edit. Yeah.
Yeah. Where should we copy from?
From C16.
C16. Should we do something before we copy this?
Do we have to freeze?
Yeah, but we can copy and then freeze as well. I mean, yeah, we can freeze. So
because this is just going to be referencing this table. So why don't we just freeze it? Don't forget, you just need to type your formula once and then move it around. So like when we did the customer service, we didn't need to do this. We did not need to like type it in again. We can just copy and paste. So if we freeze, what can we freeze here? What do we want frozen?
Freeze the table first.
Let's freeze the table. So I'm going to
F4.
Freeze it. F4. What else do we need to freeze?
And freeze the B.
Yeah, we can freeze the B, but it's not really.
Is B too far? Freeze the 4.
Okay. Sorry?
Are we freezing the 4 too?
No, you can't freeze a 4 because 4 is not a cell reference.
Okay.
It's just saying picks from column 4, from the 4th row. So it's not a cell reference, so you can't really fix it.
Okay.
And then we can now copy this.
Fix column 4 and 4th row. I'm confused.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, you just mentioned freezing column 4, and then you said 4th row again. So is it?
No, we said it's not necessary to freeze 4 because 4 is not a cell reference. So for you to, your cell reference would have a letter and a number, which represents your row and your column and your row. So B16 is a cell reference, which you can freeze. B3 is a cell reference. L8 is a cell reference. But 4, you're just saying pick the fourth row on the table. So you can't really freeze 4.
Okay, I now understand that.
Okay. So if we copy this, let's copy this. Let's copy. And then paste it here. And what have we got? We have 20,000. Is that correct?
No.
So that means we need to amend something. What do we need to amend?
We need to amend that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Add 6. Change 4 to 6.
Change 4 to 6. Thank you. So we need to change 4 to 6. And then 30,000 is the total pay for employee ID 507, which is 30,000. So is that, I hope that is clear.
No, sorry, Kemi. The 6, where is that coming from? So sorry.
So the question says, what's the total pay of employee with ID 507? On our table, our total pay, this is where our total pay is. So on the table is on row 6. If you remember where we copied from, we're looking for the salary, which is on row 4, which is why we have 4 here. And when we did customer service, we're looking for department, which is why we have 3. Department is on row 3. So you need to pick where you want it to return your results from, the row you want your result to come from, which in this case is row 6 on the table. Is that clear?
Yes, it is. Thank you. But what if you have a large data? Because it's easy to count now because it's not a lot. But what if the data is, it's more than this?
If you have a large data, depending on the type of Excel you have, when you type Vlookup, I'm going to show you. Let's do equals to H lookup. We're looking at this, comma. If you select, I'm not sure. Can you see the side? Can you see that I have the number of my rows on by the side? Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Doing that, I know that is on row 6. If it's a large data and I select all the way down, can you see that I can see my rows by the side?
Yes.
So my selection is 290. Well, I just kept going down. So you can see it by the side. If it's an older version of Excel, I would suggest putting a column, putting numbers. So you can literally do this and number it down. So you can number it down so that you know what you're picking, the row you're picking. Or you can just, however you want to count it, you can, you can actually do that and just, then you know where the column you're meant to be picking.
Thank you.
Sometimes when you're doing VLOOKUP, you might actually just dedicate like a row to number your columns. So you have the number, so you know that when you're picking this, you're just picking the number. And you can literally just pick the number right there. So instead of, so for instance, if I number this, and I'm doing this, for instance, instead of typing 6 here, I can pick this as my 6, and you get the same thing. So you can set up your formula like that to just pick the numbers that you have set up for your table. Okay. What version of Excel am I working on? You know that I actually do not know. I actually don't know the version on this. This is my work laptop. But I know on my personal laptop, I have an older version, which is why I'm using this, because on the new version, you have newer things that you can do on Excel, and Excel is more flexible on the newer things. So I think this must be like a very recent version. So I'm not sure. Let's see if I can actually find it. No, I actually don't know what version this is really. But it's probably the newest version. Okay, let's go to index and merge. And that is where we're going to end today. I'll put another file. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have this data, and I've sent the data. If you can just confirm that you have the data, that'll be good.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
Okay.
we got it.
Oh, index and merge. Remember when we did Vlookup? And when we do Vlookup, you can only look to the right. So for instance, for Vlookup, if I want to look up this, this is okay, the ID, let me just. So I have this ID from this table. The way this table is set up, if I need the salesperson, I cannot look it up using a Vlookup because the salesperson is on this side, is on the left side of the salesperson's ID. Let's try it. So if I do equal to Vlookup, open a bracket. The minute I even want to select the table, it would go wrong. Because if I select a table, you have to start with your unique ID. So when you select your table for your lookup, your unique ID, that's what you're looking up, is what should be on your first row or your first column. So on Hlookup, it has to be on your first row. On Vlookup, it has to be on your first column. So for instance, if I do a lookup on this table, and I select all this, for instance, if I select this, so this is a longer data. If I select that, that's my Vlookup, comma, and I want to look up the salesperson, what column would that be on this table?
No.
7.
Sorry, I haven't even put my lookup reference. That's my lookup reference. Okay. So that will be 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7,
Yeah.
comma, false. Enter. Can you see that it won't bring it out? One, there are two things wrong with it why we can't use the VLOOKUP. when you select your table, this should be on the first row. And when we've done our table selection, we have started our table selection from country. So it's not going to work because it's looking at the first column to match your ID, your lookup ID. And also, even though we have put the right, the right column, because it's not, it won't be able to find this because it's looking for this data is looking for it on this column and it won't find it. So we can't use Vlookup for this. I know that in some, you might have data that you might just like, okay, because I want to use Vlookup, you can copy this and put it on your first row, right? If you copy column H and put it as your first column, sorry, not row, as your first column, then you can use Vlookup. Your Vlookup will work. But you might have a data that is not that flexible. You might not be able to like just copy that column and put it somewhere else. For various reasons, it might be that it's linked to other things and it would mess up your whatever. So it's possible that you might not have that flexibility with that data, but you still want to look it up. So what you need to use is an index and match. I mean, before I started using index and match, I used to think like, okay, what's the difference between index and match and Vlookup? I know Vlookup, I use Vlookup. What's the point? Until I discovered that, it is more flexible, even though it's long-winded. But once you get it, then it is flexible because no matter where your lookup function, the data is, you can always bring the data out, either using Vlookup or index and match. So on this side, so what we want to bring forward is a salesperson. And we have a salesperson here. I've picked the first one so that we can see. So index and match is a combination of two functions. It's a combination of match and is a combination of index. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to match the data. And when you match is you're looking for the position of that data on your table and you're bringing in the position. And then is the index that will now bring in your column. And then when you combine the two, you're saying index, bring in the data from this position on the table. So we're going to do match first. And then we're going to do index. And then we're going to combine the two. So the first thing we'll do is we want to match this. So I will start with equal to, as usual, let's use a formula box first. I actually don't even know where match is, but I think it's on lookup, so match. Okay. So we have our match. What's our lookup value? We are looking this up. Okay, that's our lookup value. Where are we looking this up? We just want to have the position of this and of this data on the table. My lookup array is that's where my sales ID is. I'll just select that all the way down. So I've selected that all the way down. And then the match type. This is also like, when we had the true and false, when we're doing VLOOKUP. So the match type is when you use 0, you are bringing in an exact match. So I'll put 0 in it. And then, okay. Can you see what it has brought in? It has brought in 2. And what does 2 mean? 2 means that this data, the data I've selected, this data, this number, which is the salesperson ID, is on the second cell. So that's the position of this. So this is position 1, this is position 2, based on my selection. the selection of my table. So that's the data I've selected as a table. And that's 1, that is 2. If I change the data, I'm just going to change it to something else. So I've changed it to 82034. This is 82034. I'll color it in yellow. And this is 14. So that's 14. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it will bring in the position for you. That is one side of it. That's the match side of it. And then we're going to use an index. I'm going to put this here. And this is match. Okay. Index. So index, I'm going to say equal to. So we have the salesperson's ID, but we need to bring in a salesperson, which is on column G. So it will be equal to index. I mean, we can use the formula. It should also be under lookup index. Where's index here? Okay. So it's asking me for my table, which is the first thing you put on the index. So I'm going to select my table, which is, this is my table. I'm just going to select the old table. Doesn't really matter. So I've selected my old table as my array and my row number. So my row number is what match has brought in for me, because this is on row 14. That is where that information I'm trying to match is. So instead of selecting this information, what I'm going to put is what I already have as my match, which is this 14 here. And then I need to put my column number. What column do I need to bring in? My table is from column B to K. I need to bring in column, I'm looking for the salesperson's name. So I'm going to bring in column G, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, column 6. And okay. And that is what it has brought in for me, Richard Arnold. That is Richard Arnold's number. So that's my index, that is my match. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to do this index another way, and then we're going to combine the two. So I know Richard Arnold is on row 14, right, on my table. But I need the match to find row 14. So if I do index, for instance, if I do equal to index, let me put it here. So I'm looking for, I'm just going to put this here. I'm going to combine the formula now. Equal to index, open my bracket, and I need to select my table. So I select the table, select all the way down. Comma. I know the number I'm looking for is on row 14. I'm going to manually type 14, comma. And I know that I want the salesperson, which is, what number is that again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, comma 6. And that's Richard Arnold. So to combine this 14 here, we need to replace it with a match formula. Because the only reason why I know that it's 14 is because I've already used the match formula to find the number of row here. Without that, I'll have to manually look for it, which is not feasible. So I've typed my index, this 14 here, what I need to do is I need to replace that 14 with a match formula. And what do we do? I'm going to delete the 14 and then put a match formula, match, just the way we did the match, open a bracket. That's my, click on my lookup value, comma, click on select your data, comma, 0, close the brackets and enter. And then you have your combined index and match formula. Is that clear?
I think we're a bit fast with the index and match.
Okay. Let's take it again. Let's take it again. So what we're trying to do is we're using two formulas, two functions actually, and we're combining them to do the lookup. The first function is a match function. And what the match function does is it would look for that information and give you the position, the row that information is on your selection. So this is the information we're looking for, this salesperson's ID, 82034. That's the information here on the table. So the first thing we need to do, we're going to use a match. Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. Okay. So because I just said a match, it's giving me everything on that row. Oh, that might work for something. I'm going to delete that. So using the match function, you will do equal to match, open a bracket. We need to put our lookup value. What is our lookup value here? It's
N9.
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 And then we'll put a comma. Where are we looking up N9?
Salesperson.
Salesperson's ID.
The ID, yeah.
So I'm going to select all this all the way down, because that's where I want to look for the ID. And then comma, and I'm going to say, bring in an exact match, which is 0. So that's 0, and I will close the bracket and enter. And so I know that this ID here on this table is on row 14 on the table. So if you count this down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So you see that is on row 14. And then that is what you now input on your index. So you're going to tell your index that, you know, when I put in my table, whatever is on row 4, you're looking at row 14. That's where I want you to bring the data from. And you're going to bring it from whatever column you asked it to bring it from, but it will be from that row. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you do index, it will be equal to index. And now we open a bracket. So the first thing it asks us for is the array. That's the table. So I'm going to select my old table all the way down. So I've selected my table all the way down, and then comma, and then it's asking for row number. So our row number, the number we're looking for is 14, but how do we know it's 14? If we did not use a match, we wouldn't know it's 14, apart from manually counting. So in this case, I will put 14 first, and then we'll change that 14 to a match. So that's 14. That's my row number, comma. And then it's asking for my column number. What column do we want? Because we want the salesperson's name.
6.
So it's 6. So we have column 6, okay? and then we'll close the bracket, enter. And that's rightly Richard Arnold, right? And that's because we've told it to bring it from row 14. But to get the row 14, because we have the salesperson's ID. If you look at this, we haven't used the salesperson's ID in the index. So to combine these two, instead of having 14, because how do I know it's on row 14? I haven't done anything. I'm going to replace that 14 with the formula that brought in the 14 in the first place. So I'm going to use all this formula, this one, the old formula. I'm going to replace 14. I'm going to replace that 14 with that match formula.
Okay.
I mean, at the initial stage, you can actually copy the formula and paste it in instead of 14. That's the easiest thing to do at the beginning. But once you get conversant with it, then you'll be able to just type it in. So in this case, if I copy the formula, for instance, but before I copy the formula, let me freeze this selection because I don't want that to move. Okay. So I'm going to freeze that. So let me copy this formula. I'm going to copy this, Control C. I'm going to go here. No, escape. So I'm going to go here. This 14. I'm going to replace it. I'm going to do a Control V and replace it with my match formula. So can you see what I've done? So instead of having that 14, I've now replaced it with the formula that got me the 14 in the first place.
Okay.
And then, of course, this is what I wanted to reference. So and you can type it in. So I'm going to delete this. So to type it in right from the beginning, if you want to, use both functions, it will be equal to index. So we have our index at home now. We're doing our index. Open a bracket. We pick our table. I'm going to select the table. So that's the table, comma. And then it wants us to put the row number. And we know that the row number, we're using a match function. So just temporarily drop your index hat and put on your match hat. And let's type in, let's do a match function. So it will be match, open a bracket, click on the reference, comma, select where you want to match in all the way down, comma, and it's asking us, do we want an exact match? 0, and then close the bracket. So once you close the bracket, you've dropped your match hat, and then you're back on the index. And then the index is asking you, what column do you want? And then our column is 6, right? And then close the bracket and enter. And that is how you combine the two. Is that clear? So at the beginning, it's okay to do your match, do your index, and either copy and paste the match in your index. So you can do both ways until you get used to it, and then you can type it all through like this. So once you start with the index, and then you get to a comma and you put match, then automatically it knows that you want to put a match, so it guides you. And then once you close that and put a comma, it goes back to index for you to complete your formula. So that's index and match. And the advantage to this is it would always look, and you can pick any column. If you do Vlookup, you won't be able to pick salesperson because salesperson is before your ID. So for index and match, you can literally pick any column you want, as long as you have your row, your match. That's it.
Okay.
And of course, with Vlookup, this reference needs to be unique as well. The reference you're looking up needs to be unique. And you always need to check that your reference is unique by doing a conditional formatting and just making sure that your reference is unique. So I will do highlight cells. If there are duplicate values, highlight and okay. And if I use the filter by color, the only color there is yellow, so there's no duplicate cells. So please practice with the data. The Excel is practice, really. You have to practice with the data. Otherwise, you would forget. And try and use it. If you use it, then it will stay. It will stick. So practice and use it in, even if it's going to make what you're doing a bit more complicated. If you can actually use something simpler, but if you use it, then you get used to using all these functions. And it is very useful because you're going to have the data you're going to have a lot of data. So when you're working with data, you have rows and rows of downloaded data that you have to work with. So you cannot get away from using a lookup function. I don't think there's any day that I don't use a lookup function in my role. So please practice with the data. And that is where we're going to end today. Do we have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. What do we use index and match for?
For lookup, to bring in data. It's what you use lookup for. So you use it to bring in data from one data set to the other. You use it to combine data.
Okay, and is there any particular reason why you were copying the salesperson ID into a separate box?
What do you mean? On this side?
Richard Arnold, you first of all, you copied the salesperson ID.
Yeah, so I just picked this as an example.
Like, so if we are using this table now and we're trying to look for Richard Arnold, for instance, with that person's ID, do we need to copy it out of the column H? Do we need to copy it out separately? And then
you don't need, but if you already know where the ID is, then you don't need to do an index and match. But because you don't know where it is, so it's just a random, I just picked a random one. So you don't need, so you probably have another set of data. So for instance, you probably have like this set of data, Control C. You might even have it on a different worksheet. And they're saying, oh, we have this as some staff ID. Can you bring in the names of the staff? And then you can now do your index and match. So what I've done on this side is just an example to show you how it works. So most of the time when you're using an index and match, you have two data sets that you're trying to match up to combine. Does that make sense? Okay. So I would next week we're going to continue. We're going to use we're going to do Hlookup next week, which is well, newish because it's not an older version of Excel. So it's on a newer version. So we're going to use do Hlookup, and then we're going to do some. I think we're going to go to 1 minute. Let me
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
The Vlookup, Hlookup, what does those in H and V mean? Is it horizontal lookup?
Yeah, I think H is horizontal and V is vertical.
And what would the S lookup?
X.
X, as in X-ray.
Yeah, X for X-ray.
Okay, what will that be?
That is the king of all lookups. X is the king of all lookups. Trust me. It just, all the shortcomings of V and H, it just like bypasses it. And But we'll do that next week.
You are guru indeed. You don't want to accept that.
So thanks for logging in.
Thank you too.
And I will see you all next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kemi.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, our guru.
Thanks.
Excellent guru.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
wizard.
Did I miss someone's hand? I saw there's a hand up.
Is the person that you just answered now.
Sorry, but it was not bring it down.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Thanks. All right,
Bring
have a good
it down.
evening. Bye, everyone.
All right, bye, Kemi.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
You can stop recording, Ajay.
Okay, sir.
Bye. Thank you.